talking about Hinduism. And I'm going to start out with some of the Hindu viewpoints on the issue of God. Quote, God is one. Men call it by various names. Unquote. That is the eternal truth that is written in the Rig Veda, which many people consider to be the Hindu Bible. So what does that mean? How does that relate to us? Well, it means it doesn't matter what address you send your prayer to. It can be God, it can be Goddess, it can be Allah, it can be Buddha, it can be Jesus or Jehovah. They all end up in the same mailbox. The one God gets your message, no matter who you are or what religion you belong to. So use whatever name you like, as long as that name helps you to come into a personal, loving relationship with the one supreme being. So the point is not to choose a name for God and then declare that anyone who calls God by a different name is going to hell. For Hindus, the point is to come into a loving, living relationship with the one supreme being, to the point where you feel its breath with your breath, to the point where you feel encompassed by the all-pervading embrace of the infinite wisdom that brought this universe into being. Now, according to Hinduism, there are no false gods. Names don't matter. All names refer to one thing. What is important is that your prayers to whatever God are sincere. Whatever the form of the divine that you worship, even if it is a man with an elephant's head, the one all-pervading being who loves you more than you can imagine will use that form to guide you home. Now I'm going to talk about the differences between the Hindu beliefs and the Judeo-Christian and Islamic traditions. And the differences in these two are dramatic. Jews, of course, believe that they have a very special relationship with God. God chose them for his special loving attention and created laws for them which sets them apart from the rest of humanity. Hindus do not accept the concept of a chosen people. For Hindus, God's relationship with every soul is special. Now, the metaphor that is commonly used by Hindu saints is that the Supreme Being is like the sun. The sun shines equally on all people, regardless of what social class you come from, whether you are male or female, whether you are a good person or a not so good person, and certainly regardless of what religion you belong to. The Jewish idea of what it means to be a prophet and the Hindu idea of what it means to be a seer are also radically different. In Judaism, Yahweh speaks to his prophets, who then in turn deliver the message to the Jewish people. Now remember how I told you in the East, they have been studying and looking at energy and consciousness for thousands and thousands of years, long before we started doing that here in the West, okay? In Hinduism, the consciousness of the seer merges into the consciousness of the Supreme Being. For Jews, the Creator and the creation, which of course is us, are radically distinct. That's not the way they look at it in Hinduism. In Hinduism, they believe the divine being emanated us out of its all-pervading awareness. And therefore, it makes sense that we are able to merge our consciousness back into the source. It is like a wave in the ocean. The wave picks up, it's separate, still connected, but separate, and then it will subside back into the source. Basically, what they believe is that whatever this supreme being is, whatever it is, and they say that it is beyond names, that it is part of everything. It encompasses everything. We are not separate. We are not alone, even though we often think that we are. Now, in Orthodox, Christians believe that Jesus took on the sins of the entire world. Hindus also believe that saints can take on the karma of their disciples. To access the saving grace of Jesus, it is absolutely necessary that one worship him and him alone. Now, the Hindus find that idea very perplexing. Many Hindu saints devoted every breath of their lives to the love of God and service of humanity. Why would anyone be sent to hell because they have never heard of Jesus? In Hinduism, there are two great principles at work in this universe. One is karma, one is kripa. Karma means justice. Kripa means grace. Now, despite huge campaigns and outlays of hundreds of millions of dollars, Christian missionaries have had very little success in converting Hindus. And this is largely because the Hindus see little justice or little grace in any god who would condemn all of their ancestors to hell because they had never heard of Jesus. The Hindus believe literally, as you sow, so shall you reap. But in Hinduism, there is no eternal damnation. They believe that no being, no matter what they do, can sow enough karma over the vast stretches of eternity that God cannot find a way to bring that lost soul home. They believe that every being deserves and receives God's grace, and that no one is ever lost. Yes, we screw up. Yes, we make mistakes. We do things we shouldn't do. We will never be lost. Probably no religions are as radically opposed in their fundamental beliefs as Hinduism and Islam. The Muslims believe that it is a spiritual crime to create an image of God. Now, the Hindus believe that used with proper understanding, images of God, such as the various statues that you will find in a Hindu temple, are an excellent way for people to focus their mind on the divine. Now, keep in mind, I had somebody tell me one time, oh, those Hindus, they're a bunch of nuts, they got all those gods. That's because we don't understand what they're doing. They have one supreme being. And all of these other gods are various aspects or various characteristics of the one. So, for example, this enables people to find the aspect that touches them, that speaks specifically to them. For me, I like the god Shiva. Now Shiva is the god that represents change, stamping out the child of ignorance, and tearing away the old to make way for new growth. Because I decided at some point in my life, everything is about change, so maybe I better make peace with this and understand it better. So that God, that aspect, would be something that would appeal to me. But I still know this is just one aspect of the one. Now, Muslims feel called by their faith to destroy any images of God that they come across. And so during the first few centuries of the Muslim occupation of northern India, many, many Hindu temples were destroyed. The destruction was so complete that today you have to go to southern India in order to find a truly ancient Hindu temple. The problems between the Hindus and Islam continue to this day. You can see it in the constant tension between Pakistan, which is Islamic, and India. Christian and Islam are aggressive missionary religions. In Hinduism, the attitude toward other religions is live and let live. The religions that came out of the Middle East, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, adamantly reject most of the Hindus' fundamental beliefs. However, there is a paradox here. All of these religions have a mystical tradition. So what is a mystical tradition? A mystical tradition is for the people who are devoted to worship. It is the deeper teachings, the more intense teachings, the more intense techniques for coming into a relationship with the divine. And the interesting thing is that the mystical religions of all those three religions agree with the Hindu insights to the letter. Now those mystical traditions are the Kabbalah of Judaism, which explains how the universe emanated from one transcendental reality, Sufism, which is Islamic mysticism. It is also called the path of love, which teaches yoga-like techniques leading to higher states of awareness. And Gnosticism, which is a system of highly mystical beliefs that was embraced by many of the early Christians. Now, in the past, I've talked about the Nag Hammadi documents. These are the earliest Christian writings that we have in the world. They're Gnostic Gospels. Those are Gnostic teachings. Many Westerners today think of India in monotheistic terms. One country, one culture. Wrong. That could not be further from the truth. For most of India's long history, it has had an amazing number of distinct subcultures. Today, there are 80,000 subcultures in India. There are 325 different languages spoken and 25 different written scripts. We as Americans like to brag that, oh, we're the melting pot of America. Well, guess what? The Hindus have been doing this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Hinduism is by far the most complex religion in the world, shading under its enormous umbrella an incredibly diverse array of contrasting beliefs, practices, and denominations. Hinduism, as the oldest religion in the world, has had more than enough time to develop a diversity of opinions and approaches to spirituality, which is unmatched by any other religion. The Hindus are considered to be perhaps the most peaceful of the major world cultures. In the last 2,500 years, there has been one military action that they have taken outside of India, and that was the conquest of Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines in 1400 CE. Hindus sometimes fight with each other, and they do. But they have had very little interest in conquering anybody else, though many of the other world cultures and countries have certainly taken a crack at trying to conquer India. Before the arrival of the Muslims in 1000 CE, the Hindus handily assimilated all would-be conquerors who came storming over their northern borders: the Mongolians, the Persians, and the Huns. All eventually melted into India's embrace and became part of Hindu culture. The broad-minded Hindus were able to accommodate just about everybody who knocked on their door, until the Muslims. And for the first time, foreign invaders left wounds that were so deep, they have not healed to this day. In ancient times, surprisingly enough, religious tolerance was more the norm through much of the world. The ancient Greeks and Romans, for example, were surprisingly tolerant of other religions. For example, if you look at the Romans with the Jewish people, they didn't object to their religious beliefs. They just didn't want any revolts or any trouble out of it. Now, of course, with Rome, that changed when Christianity became the Roman religion. As the monotheistic religions began to dominate world culture, respect for other cultures' religions has disappeared. And today, Hindu culture is the one remaining enclave of a universal-minded religion. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, and this is a true story, about this Christian missionary who is attempting to convert the Hindus. So he calls these people in this village together, and they all come out. And he's explaining Christianity, and he's explaining Jesus. And they're all listening with respect, and they're nodding, and they're smiling. And so he's thinking, I did it. So he gives each one a picture of Jesus to take home. So the Hindus all go home and lovingly place the picture of Jesus on their altar next to the pictures and the statues of all the other gods that they worship. In other words, they included him in the group. And of course, the Christian missionaries are